A very good morning to everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to welcome you all for this online webinar on the topic of Introduction to IoT Controllers. This session will be very useful for students as well as faculty members because of its new concept of IoT controllers. And you will be able to get an idea on IoT controller techniques, new techniques. Okay, as we all know that Internet of Things is playing a vital role in our day-to-day life because of conversion of smart appliances and smart devices. Nowadays we are using it, and you'll be getting an idea about the topic of Internet of Things. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask the resource person. Okay, he is an assistant professor of Department of Electrical and Electronic Engineering from Crescent University. Okay. Now I request Dr. KB Bhaskar sir, head of the department EEE, to introduce our chief guests.
Very good morning to one and all present in the today's webinar. It's a great immense pleasure to give introduction about today's speaker. Dr. A. Paramasivam is currently working as an assistant professor in the Department of Electrical and Electronics at the B.S. Abdul Rahman Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. He did his UG PG affiliated to Anna University institutions, PhD completed in Anna University, Chennai. He received his in biomedical instrumentation. He has research collaboration projects with the Global Hospitals and Health City, Chennai, and Indian Council for Medical Research, Vector Control and Research Center, Pondicherry. He has teaching and research experience of 7 years. He has filled 4 innovation patents, 4 design patents, and 3 copyright patents in the field of biomedical instrumentation. Also, he is authored 7 book chapters and has published several papers in national and international journals and conferences. His interested area: power electronics and drives, biosignal processing, battery operated vehicles, and robotic and automation. Yes, I hope you all definitely today's session will be informative, and I welcome once again, sir. I welcome you, Dr. Paramasivam sir. So now I would like to hand over the session to today's speaker.
Yeah, thank you so much, sir. Very good morning to one and all present here. Myself, Dr. A. Paramasivam, Assistant Professor from Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering, B.S. Abdul Rahman Crescent Institute of Science and Technology, Chennai. Before starting my session, I thank Dr. K.B. Bhaskar sir for suggesting me as a resource person for this online webinar entitled Introduction to IoT Controllers. Whether my voice is audible, sir?
Yes sir, yes sir, your voice
Yes,
is
sir,
audible,
audible, sir. You can proceed.
Yeah, okay, thank you so much, sir. Yeah, while coming to the agenda of today's session, first of all, we will see the architecture of IoT and IoT enabling technologies. Then we will discuss in detail about sensors, actuators, and level converters. Also, we will discuss in detail about various IoT microcontrollers, and finally, we will see various open IoT platforms. So, while coming to architecture of IoT, so there are 4 stages of architecture of IoT: stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and stage 4. In stage 1, we'll be having sensors and actuators. So here sensor is a kind of input device which is used to convert any physical quantity into an electrical signal. So many physical quantities are there in and around the environment. So those physical quantities can be converted into an electrical signal using sensors. So that converted electrical signals can be further fed to the other devices like microcontrollers, all those things. So sensor is a very basic component. It will interact to the real time environment, and then it will convert that physical quantity into an electrical signal. So sensor is a basic component here. And then actuator is a output device. Actually we can have some outputs from this kind of actuators. These actuators can be either a solenoid valves or it can be a motor with some mechanical arrangement. So we can have some linear or rotatory motion with the help of these actuators. So in stage 1 we can have sensors and actuators as a components. So these two can be connected either wired or wireless. That is the advantage here. So many sensors are there. With some additional circuitry, we can transfer the data from those sensors through wired or wireless. That depends on the location where it has been implemented. So here, if any sensors is implemented in any remote position or place, there you cannot have the sets of wire to transmit the data from one place to another place. So here what can happen? So we can have some wireless kind of arrangements, and then we can transmit data from these devices to further connected devices with the help of wireless modules. So the same thing can be applicable for actuators also. So from the data from the microcontroller can be transmitted to actuators through wireless. So the connection between the further components and these two basic components can be by either wired or wireless. That is the thing. Using these two modes, the data can be transmitted from one place to another place. So in stage 1, both the input and output devices will be present. So this is the stage 1 component. And then in stage 2, we can have internet gateways, data acquisition systems. So data acquisition systems are somewhat very essential in any components, like automated component. We can say automated systems here. So what we can have is the output from the sensors will not be compatible with further mechanical circuitry or further electronic circuitry actually. So the sensor output may be in some lower range, or it may be somewhat distorted. Like that, some various influences will be there in the output of these sensors. So what happen? You should have some data acquisition systems or data acquisition devices. With the help of these data acquisition devices, you can tune or you can process these signals, and then further the processed signals can be given to these edge computing devices. So here, this inside this data acquisition systems, we can have further subcomponents like filters and instrumentation amplifiers, etc. So all these the entire circuitry can be implemented in any application, like agriculture application or biomedical application. Any application, we can use this entire circuitry. So if you consider any biomedical application, the sensors, whatever biomedical sensors we are just using, that sensors will produce very low level signals. So that means the output voltage of that particular sensors are electrodes. Usually we can have electrodes in biomedical applications. So that the electrodes will pick up body signals, human body signals. That signals will be in a lower range. So what happens? It would be somewhat around microvolts or millivolts. So that voltage ranges cannot be given directly to the edge computing devices. That means a microcontroller. So you cannot directly connect your sensors some pre-processing devices. That pre-processing components or devices can be integrated in this data acquisition system. So inside this data acquisition systems, you can have further subcomponents like filters and instrumentation amplifiers. Instrumentation amplifiers are mainly used to amplify the signal, whatever signal applied to the that particular instrumentation amplifier. So it will give some amplification, and then that amplified signals will be further applied to the rest of the circuitry here. So the data acquisition system have further components inside, many further components inside, like filters and amplifiers. So biomedical applications, we can have instrumentation amplifier as a data acquisition systems or devices. So and then one more thing is internet gateways to tune the data to the further devices. It will allow the data, it will permit the data from one side to another side. That helps if you have multiple sensors. So for example, you can have several sensor, 50 or 100 numbers of sensor connected at the stage 1. So all those data will be transmitted from stage 1 to stage 2. So this internet gateway will allow that particular data to from left hand side to right hand side. That means from a basic sensing side to further computation side. So this helps us to tune or allow the data actually. So this is the stage 2 here. So and then stage 3 we can have a edge computing devices. So edge computing devices is a distributed computing paradigm actually that brings computation and data storage closer to the location actually where it is needed to improve response times, and it saves the bandwidth. So here this is our final end actually. So here we can have a cloud here. Cloud is nothing but a storage. So the stage 4 comprises of cloud storage here. So that cloud storage is used to store whatever data we would like to have. So here the sensor data will be transmitted to the stage 2. That stage here the stage 2 devices will tune or process our data that will be processed to the stage 3 computing devices here. So after that computation, the computer data will be stored inside this cloud servers. Okay, so we can have some packs of servers here, and then which will be acting as a storage here. So this cloud is nothing but a memory storage space. So we can have n number of memory storage here. I mean the size would be somewhat is very huge actually, and it would be somewhat maintained by some hosting agency. Like we can have nowadays we can have many online cloud storages. Like if you people are using iPhone, then we can have iPhone storage also. Internal storage is somewhat very less, means you can have some cloud storage. If you people are having a network internet, then you can able to store your data in iPhone cloud. Likewise, many clouds are available. So for the marketing purposes, those people are just giving us some free space, free cloud space. So around 25 MB or 500 MB, like that, they usually provide some free space. Once you would like to use memory space more than that, then you have to pay, and then you have to utilize their memory space. Wow, the use of this cloud servers is nothing but you can store your data in that cloud server, and with the help of internet you can access the data anywhere at any time, anywhere and anytime actually. So you can feed your data from one place. Okay, like you can feed data from any place. I'm for example, if I am in Chennai, then I can feed my data from Chennai, and then I can store this data. And then if I am traveling to some other place, some other end also even, so I can access the same data by accessing the same cloud memory space by using the internet facility. They will simply provide us some user account. Inside that we can have some memory space. That memory space depends on the whatever money you are just paying. So many cloud servers are available. One common cloud service is nothing but Amazon Web Service, AWS. It is a very top one cloud service actually. And then another one is Microsoft Azure. Likewise in market, many cloud servers are available. Cloud memory space are available. Only thing, you have to pay them, and then you have to utilize their memory space. The whatever data you would like to store, they will simply allow you to store with the help of internet facility. If you once again if you would like to access the data, then you need internet facility wherever you are. That is the thing here. So cloud is somewhat getting more prominence nowadays, because if we are having any local storage, we can have some difficulties, like your data can get corrupted, and it can be corrupted because of viruses. So all those things will happen. But if you are just storing in those private those common cloud servers, they just take responsibility of your data, and then your data would be somewhat very confidential also. They will not give your data to anyone. That confidentiality would be somewhat very high, and also your data security will somewhat high actually. So you need not to worry about data corruption, all those things. So here what happened, the data from the signals from the sensors will be given to this data acquisition systems, and it will be computed, and then the results will be stored in the cloud memory space. And once again, here this cloud is only going to interact with the human. So you will interact with this cloud, and then you can visualize the data, and then with the help of this you can order your computing device. According to that, the control signals will be once again fed to stage 2, and then it will be pre-processed, and the pre-processed signals will be activate your actuators. This is a bidirectional flow actually. If you are seeing it with sensor point of view, then you have to see the flow from left to side, right side. So this is the sensing area actually. So sensing area, your sensor is projected. So sensory signals will be given to this stage, and then after the second stage, it will move on to stage 3, and then once again it will move on to stage 4. So cloud will be having some interface with the humans. So if humans would like to do some operations, then you can give some control signals by having some HMIs, human machine interface. You can have front end. So with the help of that front end, you can click any buttons, or you can give some control signals. So that control signals will be giving that appropriate commands to your controller. According to that, your controller will provide you the control signals. So the control signal will be fine tuned with respect to your actuators. These actuators will be activated, then your entire process will be controlled. This is the thing, and this is the flow of architecture of IoT. So 4 stages of IoT is this one, and then these are all the IoT enabling technologies. So IoT enabling technologies, the very first one is a wireless sensor network, and then cloud computing, big data analytics, communication protocols, and embedded systems. So here, um, before proceeding with this IoT enabling, I would like to say a few words about Internet of Things. So I just missed that. So the Internet of Things is a system of interconnection between computing devices, mechanical and digital machines having unique identifiers. So with the help of the IoT devices, it can have an ability to transfer data over a network without requiring human to human or a human to computer interaction. So we can have here in this picture also we can clearly observe. So we can have a sensing devices, we can have a computing devices, and then we can have mechanical devices. Likewise, it will be somewhat Internet of Things is somewhat interconnection between all these devices with some network. So every single device will have a unique identifiers. Okay, like a unique addresses, identifiers. Unique identifiers will be there. With that, you can have a data transfer operation from one device to another device. Either it will operate from human to human, or your data can be transmitted from human to human, or it can be transmitted from human to computer also. So this is the IoT actually. So here, IoT enabling technologies, we have just seen these 5 types. So first of all, we will just see that wireless sensor network. So this is this is an example for wireless sensor network. So this wireless sensor network can be implemented for many systems, many automated systems, such as these are all the examples: indoor air quality monitoring system, weather monitoring system, soil moisture monitoring system, surveillance system, and health monitoring systems. So here, all these systems will have basic sensors, and then their controllers, all those IoT things inside. So this is one such example, which is somewhat given in pictorial form. So here they have just implemented some wireless sensor node in an agriculture farm field. So here they consider this as an agricultural field. So we can have several wireless sensor nodes. This is one wireless sensor node, wireless sensor node. Likewise, we can have many wireless sensor nodes. So in this example, they have just deployed 4 wireless sensor nodes here. So what happened? They are just given like bidirectional arrows. So this clearly indicates that your data can be transferred from one device to another device. So this is nothing but a transceiver module. So your farm field parameters like soil moistures, and then their humidity, and then light intensity, all those parameters can be sensed with the help of this sensor node, and that can be transmitted through wireless. So what happened? This is, if you consider this as a wireless sensor node, so all those physical quantities such as what soil moisture and light intensity, all those parameters will be sensed, and that can be transmitted to another wireless sensor node. So what happened? This wireless sensor node will receive the data from this wireless sensor node. So this data will also get transmitted because of this wireless sensor node. So they are just given as bidirectional arrows here. Likewise, we can have many wireless sensor nodes. So one will act as a master, another will act as a slave. Likewise, some protocols will be there. According to that, your data can be transmitted from your data can be received from another node and it can be transmitted to another node. For example, if you consider this node, okay, if you consider this node will receive your data from this wireless node and then this will transmit to this node or this node. So that depends on your microcontroller programming, or that depends on the demand actually. It will do its own functionality also. Even though it is also a sensor node, it will take the parameters and also it will receive the data from other node and then it will transmit it to other node. Likewise, one single node will perform multiple operations. That depends on program and demand. So if there is any demand, according to that, your data can be transmitted from one wireless sensor node to another wireless sensor node. So commonly, all these data can be passed through this gateway node. So after this gateway, it can fit to some internet. This is nothing. With the help of this internet, we can have our data inside the cloud storage or database and server here, or else you can directly visualize with the help of cell phone or with the help of computer. So this is the thing. And then here we were just discussing about wireless sensor nodes. So all these wireless sensor nodes are enabled by some wireless communication protocols such as IEEE 802.15.4. So Zigbee is one of the most popular wireless technology used by WSNs. WSNs is nothing but a wireless sensor network. So Zigbee is a transceiver module actually. So with the help of the transceiver module, we can transmit and receive data from one place to another place. So the Zigbee specifications are based on this standard actually, IEEE 802.15.4. And also the Zigbee is somewhat very low power devices. The only thing to adapt the Zigbee is nothing but we can have a low power consumption. So only all the users usually prefer Zigbee for their application because of this low power consumption. And also the data rate is somewhat up to 250 kilobytes per second, and its range is somewhat up to 100 meters. But in recent years, we people can able to transmit data for several kilometers also. That kind of advanced Zigbees are available in market. So this is an example for a wireless sensor network, and it is a base for IoT. So this is a thing, and then the next one is cloud compute. So cloud computing, here the cloud computing, I already told you, the cloud is nothing but a memory space. So cloud computing provides computing, networking, and storage resources on demand. That is the advantage of cloud computing. We can have a storage space, and also the computation can happen. Networking is essential there, and also storage is also essential on demand. So this is the cloud computing, and there are some types of cloud computing services such as IaaS, that means infrastructure as a service, and PaaS, platform as a service, and SaaS, software as a services. So these are the types of cloud computing operations. I'm not going to involve the cloud computing in brief because it is not at all needed here. So next one is big data analytics. So big data analytics are used to store, manage, process, and analyze the data, in which collection of data whose volume, velocity, or variety is too large. So your sensor data, the data from the sensors.
Paramasivam sir.
Yeah, tell me, sir.
Paramasivam sir. Sir, your voice is not stable, sir. Use your mic stable manner.
Okay.
Voice is getting increased and reducing. Huh?
Okay. So now, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Now it is okay.
Okay, sir. I mean some network disturbances, I believe. So I will. Yeah. So here, with the help of that, with the help of this big data analytics, we can process our huge volumes of sensor data, and that can be stored effectively in a cloud platform. So that is the advantage of this big data analytics. And then communication protocols are used to transfer data, or used to exchange data from one device to another device. And then here embedded systems are nothing but inside these embedded systems we can have a microcontrollers as a embedded systems. So embedded system is is defined as, anyways, embedded system is defined as a combination of both the hardware and software. So we can have microcontroller, and that programming is some kind of software, and microcontroller is a hardware. So if we are just using any microcontroller in any system, then that system is said to be an embedded system. So obviously we must have all these 5 IoT enabling technologies for a proper use of IoT. So this is the thing. And then while coming to sensors and actuators, so sensors. So before proceeding it, I would like to once again recall what is meant by sensor. A sensor is a device which convert any physical quantity into an electrical signal. So that electrical signal, the whatever electrical signal is produced from that sensor, that electrical signal may be digital or may be analog. So according to that, sensors can be categorized into 2 types. So if any sensor is producing a digital output, I mean digital signal, then that particular sensor is called as a digital sensor. If any sensor is producing analog signal as an output, then that particular sensor is said to be an analog sensor. So this is a graph which represents or which gives a clear picture about the analog signal and a digital signal. So if we consider analog signal, and then the top graph is a analog signal graph. So the x-axis is the time, and then y-axis is the amplitude, and then here you can observe. So your sensor signal, I mean your analog signal, varies with respect to time. So it is a continuous signal which varies with respect to time. So only it is called as an analog signal. We can have multiple values. So if you just observe, signal values with respect to time, each time for various times you can have some various values. So this is the analog signal. But if you consider a digital signal for a same axis, so x-axis is a time and y-axis is an amplitude here, but you can have only 2 stages, only not more than 2 stages you can have. So this is a 0 state, and this one is a 1 state here. Likewise, in digital signals, there is a possibility of only 2 states. So 0 state or 1 state. That means what? 0 voltage or 5 volts, 0 voltage or 3.3 volt. Likewise, you can always have any one of these states. But if with respect to time, if you observe that 2, you can have only 2 states. You not more than 2 states. But you can observe for analog signals, you can have multiple states. For example, if you consider this point, you can have 1 volt. For this point, you can have 2 volt. If you observe this peak, you can have 5 volt. Like that, with respect to time, you can have various voltage levels. So only it is called as an analog signal, and this one is called as a digital signal. So these 2 are signals which can be produced with the help of sensors. So sensors, according to the sensed quantity, sensed physical quantity, sensors will produce either a digital signal or an analog signal. That depends on that particular sensor. So the various sensors are available in market. You have to see that particular data sheet to get an idea about the output. So if you are just surfing for any sensors in internet, then you must see its output voltage levels, and also see its you must go through its nature. Whether it is a digital sensor, then obviously you can have only 2 states. If it is an analog sensor, then obviously you can have multiple states. You can have some continuous values. So one such example is nothing but for digital sensors, we can say float sensors as a digital sensors. We can say float sensors as a digital sensor. Float sensors means you can fix any float sensor in your water tanks or in your fuel tanks of your vehicle. So what happens if there is any upper limit, if there is any fuel upper limit, your fuel level is somewhat approaching upper limit, that sensor will produce one output. If your fuel level is reaching a lower limit, then it will produce some signal. So likewise, you can have 2 limits here. You can have 2 limits here. So one is a upper limit, another one is a lower limit. So these 2 are the levels actually, or these 2 are the range. So you cannot have more than these 2 limits, upper limit and lower limit. So obviously that water level sensor or fuel level sensor will come under the category of digital sensor. Digital. Okay, so then analog sensor, the example for analog sensor is nothing but temperature sensor. We can consider temperature sensor as a analog sensors, because for every degree Celsius change, you can have some voltage level. For example, for 1 degree Celsius temperature change, you can have some voltage level. For example, if you consider your temperature sensor is sensing 1 degree Celsius, then it is somewhat giving 1 volt means. For 2 degree Celsius, maybe it will be giving a 2 volt as a output. 3 degree Celsius, it may give a 3 volt output. Likewise, your output will be somewhat changing with respect to your temperature change. So every time you can have a different voltage level. Continuous voltage value. So the temperature sensor is a common example for analog sensors. So these two are the nature of the sensor. So according to these two nature, the sensors are classified into two types. One is an analog sensor, another one is a digital sensor. So these are all the types of sensors. So you can observe, these are all the types of sensors which can be used by all the academicians and also by some industry people. So here, and at the left hand side, you can see this one is an analog ultrasonic sensor, gas sensor, color sensor. Likewise, many sensors are available. According to that, the particular physical quantity can be converted into analog signal or digital signal. For example, if you consider this ultrasonic sensor can be used to measure distance of any object, or distance of the sensor also. The sensor is placed at any distance. That distance can also be measured here. And also here, if you consider the PIR sensor, it is somewhat used for detecting some human interference. PIR is nothing but passive infrared sensor, accelerometer, IR sensor. All these sensors are used to convert that appropriate physical quantity into electrical signals. Here the distance is somewhat converted the distance will be somewhat converted into electrical signal. Here that gas quantity will be somewhat converted into electrical signal. Color, likewise, many physical parameters or quantities can be converted into electrical signal. And these are all some types actually. LDR and thermistor. Here maybe change in resistance or capacitance or inductance. Likewise, it can be any change. So further interfacing circuitry must be needed here to convert that resistance change or inductance change or capacitance change into an electrical signal. Because this LDR output will be a change in resistance. So what that change in resistance should be further converted into some electrical voltage or current. So according to that only we can connect this to some other microcontrollers. We cannot directly connect it to any other microcontrollers. We need some interfacing circuitry for these kind of sensors. So these are all the sensors. You can go through it. Types of sensors available in market. Other than this also available. These are all some examples actually. Other than this, many other sensors are also available to measure many industrial physical parameters. So I will just give you a few glimpses of working of these sensors. So the very first digital sensor is this sensor, soil moisture sensor. This is one such type of digital sensor because it will give you only two state output, whether the soil moisture is present or not. So whether the soil is moisture or not, that kind of decision it will give it to you with the help of this electrical signal. So you have to supply either 3.3 volt or you have to supply 5 volt. So according to that, your output voltage will be there. So if you are just supplying 3.3 volt for the operation of this sensor, then obviously you will be getting a maximum of 3.3 volt as a upper limit. If you are utilizing a 5 volt here as a power source, then the maximum output voltage limit will be 5 volt. This is due to many microcontrollers will have a different voltage ratings. Like microcontrollers will have a IO pins. Later I will just get you in detail. So microcontroller will support either 3.3 volt or 5 volt. That depends on microcontrollers anyways. So if you are just utilizing a microcontroller that supports only 3.3 volts means, then you have to give supply to this sensor with 3.3 volt. Or if your microcontroller is capable to have 5 volt as an input, then you can utilize a 5 volt input here also. So this, anyways, the output of this signal will be given to the microcontroller only. The next stage is nothing but a microcontroller stage. The output of this sensor will be connected to the microcontroller. So you must check for the compatibility. So whether the sensor output is 3.3 volt or 5 volt. According to that, you have to change your working voltage. So if you are applying 3.3 volt, output will be 3.3 volt. If you are applying 5 volt, output will be 5 volt. So you must check for microcontroller voltage capability. According to that, you have to supply input to this sensor. According to that, you will get the output voltage. That output voltage will be applied to the microcontroller here. So what happened? This is nothing but a lead. These two leads will be dipped in the soil, and then according to the moisture level, it will give you the control signals. So it will give you the control signals. That control signal will be given to the microcontroller. So if there is a moisture level present, then it may give 5 volt output or 3.3 volt. Or else if there is a no moisture, then it will give you 0 volt or 0 volt. That's all. So likewise, this is one advantage here. They are just coated with some nickel plating actually to avoid corrosion. So this is a digital sensor. So one more thing they are just incorporated here, that is LM395, one comparator circuit they are just incorporated to adjust the sensitivity. Sensitivity here, one part is that with the help of this part and then this comparator circuit, we can adjust the sensitivity of this particular sensor. So sensor is a digital sensor, and then the next sensor is an analog sensor. This one is an analog sensor, and this one is also an analog sensor. So here, this ultrasonic sensor is nothing but, here we will be having two components inside. One is the transmitter, another one is a receiver. This is a front view and this is a top view, or we can call it a side view here. So one will act as a transmitter and another will act as a receiver. So what happens here, we can have four terminals. One is a VCC terminal, another one is a ground terminal, and trigger terminal is there, and then echo terminal is there. So here in this trigger terminal, you have to apply some frequency. According to that frequency only, your sound waves will be generated. Ultrasound is also a kind of sound. That range would be somewhat around 20 to 20,000 hertz. So here this particular sensor will operate on the frequency range of 50 hertz. According to that, we have to apply some electrical pulsed signals. 40 hertz frequency signal should be applied at this triggering terminal, and then additionally you have to provide a 5 volt as a supply, and then ground also you have to apply here. So if you give all these three, and then it will, this particular sensor will respond, and then so ultrasonic sound waves will be produced. So these sound waves will be transmitted with the help of this transmitter, and then it will transmit. If you place any object in front of this, what happens, because of the placed object, your transmitter waves will be reflected back to, and then this reflected signal will be received by this receiver, and then that received signal will be get from this echo pin. So this echo pin will be somewhat given to any microcontroller, and then that microcontroller will sense this signal, and your distance can be calculated. One formula is also there. I am not going to involve you that much deep. The formula is nothing but D is equal to 0.5 or a half C into T. C is nothing but speed of the sound wave, and T is nothing but time to time taken to transmit and then get reflected back. So the total transmission, that time, and then the sound wave speed, and then half 0.5 into C into T. If you calculate all the parameters, then you obviously you will be getting the distance value. So with the help of that, we can calculate the distance. So if your sound waves is somewhat delayed, or if it is somewhat getting too much time to receive at this side, then according to that you can have a distance. According to that, you can calculate the distance. So if you place the object here, suddenly it will be reflected back. If you place the object so far, according to that, sound waves will be transmitted that much distance, and then that should be reflected back. It will take some more time. So according to that, the traveling time and also the speed of the sound wave, with the help of that, we can have one formula, and then we can calculate the distance. So this is the one ultrasonic sensor principle. So this is a one kind of analog sensors. So the next sensor is a temperature sensor here. So this is one common temperature sensor, contact type temperature sensor. This should be in contact with the environment. For example, if you would like to measure the environmental temperature, then obviously you have to place this sensor in the environment. Or if you'd like to measure a temperature of any particular material, then you have to place this LM35 on that particular, over that particular material. You have to fix or place this one. So this is a semiconductor type of temperature sensor. So it is somewhat very cheap also, and also it will simply consumes a very less power consumption. So the current consumption would be somewhat around 60 microamperes, and then the output would be somewhat if there is any 1 degree Celsius change, according to that you can have 10 millivolt change. For example, if your environmental temperature is 1 degree Celsius, then you will be getting 10 millivolt output from this particular sensor. If your environmental temperature is 10 degrees Celsius, then you will be getting 100 millivolt output signal. Likewise, every degree change in temperature, you will be getting that corresponding millivolt as a output of this particular sensor. So somewhat it is somewhat very easy to interface with any microcontrollers. So only we people, academicians usually use this kind of temperature sensor for the measurement of temperature. So these two are analog sensors. So I just gave a glimpse of digital sensors working and then analog sensors working. So other than these two, we can have many other analog sensors also that works on its own principle. You can see its corresponding data sheet, and then you can observe that particular working principle. So all the sensor module will come with their own data sheet. With the help of the data sheet, their operating current, operating voltage, and then their terminal pins, pin descriptions, and everything can be visualized or observed. According to that, we can adapt these kind of sensors for our own applications. So these two are analog sensors. So I have just completed sensors. Then we will just move on to actuators. This is one kind of actuator, one kind of a simple actuator, commonly called as solenoid valve. So this is a solenoid valve. If you just simply apply some 12 volt or 24 volt, according to that, inside some plunger movement will be there. According to that, this head will be closed, this mouth will be closed inside. So at one side you can allow any water, or in the same valve can be used for air also. But this particular picture is representing water flow, water solenoid valve, water type of solenoid valve. So this solenoid valve can be used for water controlling application. So you can have a water inlet at this side, and then you can have outlet at other side. If you just apply any 12 volt, it will simply block that water flow, or if you are just removing that voltage, it will just release that water flow. Likewise, it will go to only two states. One is a on state, another one is a off state. That means it will close or it will open that particular process. So this is a kind of actuator. Other than this, we can have some servo motors. Servo motors can also be utilized as actuators here. So these two are servo motors and motors with some mechanical arrangement, and then solenoid valves. All these things will come under actuator category. So sensors are over and actuators are over. So we have just completed what the input part, I mean the sensing part, and then output part, and then we do converters. This is a level converter circuit. One complexity I just already told you. So the output of this particular sensor, the output of this particular sensor, for example, if you consider, if this particular sensor is giving you 5 volt only, but your microcontroller maximum voltage handling is somewhat 3.3 volt. So this 5 volt cannot be applied to microcontroller directly, because this 5 volt will damage your microcontroller input pins. So you must need some interfacing circuitry to convert this 5 volt to the corresponding 3.3 volt. I mean, what we are just completely leveling our voltage. The whatever voltage level coming from the sensor, that is somewhat we are just going to scale, and then we are just going to apply it to microcontroller. So here, this is the thing. So at one side, consider at the left hand side, we are just connecting what sensor. That sensor output is 5 volt, and then we are just connected that sensor here. And this is a circuit actually, and then at the right hand side, this is a VCC. So in this VCC, you can apply 3.3 volt. So if there is any 5 volt, according to that, you can have a 3.3 volt at this V out pin. Or else if you are having 0 volt, according to that, you can have 0 volt. So what happens, you can level or you can shape your voltage level here. So only this kind of circuit is called as level converters. So in industries, we people usually adapt optocoupler type of level converters to convert our voltage level from one level to another level. So maybe from 3.3 to 5 volt, or maybe from 5 volt to 3.3 volt. We can use any voltage levels here, and then we can convert that voltage level to another voltage level by using this same circuitry. You can ask, because inside this we can have a photo transistor. If you are applying 5 volt means it will emit the light here, but we can have a 0 volt here. One more component is missing here. We can have one not gate here. Okay, so with the help of not gate, the same, if you are just applying 5 volt here, according to we can have 3.3 volt here. If you are having 3.3 volt here, according to that we can have 5 volt here. Likewise, this is the basic circuitry. If you are just going closer to this, we can observe many internal circuitries also. So this is one form of level converters which is used to level your sensor signals for to the microcontroller capability. And then introduction to microcontrollers. So this is the building blocks of microcontroller. So inside any microcontroller, so we can have these are all these modules actually. So these are all the modules which present inside any microcontroller. Other than these also, some other modules are there. This is one example microcontroller. This is not a common to all, but this is one example microcontroller. We can have modules like this inside our microcontroller. Why we are just going for microcontroller is nothing but in any IoT applications, the controller plays a vital role. So for the autonomous decision making, or for controlling any process, we can have controllers to mimic our human process, human actions. So this microcontroller will mimic our human brain actions, and then it will control any process. So this microcontroller is an example microcontroller. Inside our microcontroller, we can have a processing unit, central processing unit, RAM, ROM, and IO ports, timer, and serial communication port. So with the help of all these modules, we can have some process. We can control some process, or we can transfer data from one place to another place. So these are all the basic building blocks of microcontroller. So nowadays many advanced microcontrollers came into existence. So many manufacturing companies are competing themselves, and then they are just inventing many more microcontrollers with some advanced modules integrated inside. So for example, in this microcontroller, we don't have any analog to digital converters inside. This is one example microcontroller. There is no analog to digital conversion module inside this microcontroller, but in nowadays we people can have analog to digital converters also inside our microcontrollers. So this is a basic microcontroller with some modules. So RAM is nothing but memory space, ROM is also memory space, and IO ports. IO ports are used to interface any. In this IO port only, we can have a IO pins. That pins can be projected outside. Okay, that pins can be projected outside. That pins can be connected to the sensors directly. So sensors can be connected to the IO pins. The sensor signals will flow through this IO pin, and then it will flow through this IO module, and then it will move to the central processing unit, or it will move to the RAM or ROM, whatever it is, according to the program. So this is the only gateway here. So whatever data we would like to move from our microcontroller to the external world, that will move through this IO port. And then if you would like to move any data from external world to your microcontroller inside, then this will act as a gateway actually. So with the help of this only, we can have a data inside to your microcontroller, or you can have a data from your microcontroller to the external environment. So this is the gateway here, and timers are used to provide some time delays. If you would like to control any process with respect to some time, we can use this timer modules. So timer modules are somewhat very essential nowadays, because we would like to control any process with respect to time only. For example, we would like to stop any conveyor after 5 seconds. We would like to stop any conveyor after 10 seconds. Like that, the time plays a vital role in any industries. So obviously, for the time control operations, we need some timers inside. So that timers that will be achieved with the help of this timer modules. And the serial communication port are used to transmit data from one microcontroller to another microcontroller. So data can be transmitted from one place to another place for a very long distance. With the help of the serial communication port, we can transmit our data from one place to another place using a wired or wireless interfaces. So this serial communication port can be directly connected to Zigbee, means we can transmit our data through wireless with the help of that Zigbee module. Or else if you are just connecting any RS-232 cable, here we can connect some cable to this serial communication port, means our data can be transmitted from this microcontroller to another microcontroller through that cable. So both the modes or modalities are possible here. So what is it? We can transfer our data from one microcontroller to another microcontroller, one microcontroller to another microcontroller with the help of a serial communication port. Okay, so this is the operation here. And then the next one is advanced microcontroller, building blocks of advanced microcontrollers. So here this is the advanced microcontrollers. When compared to the previous one, we can have several modules integrated inside. So like we can have a SPI module also integrated inside, and then ADC module integrated inside, Wi-Fi modules integrated inside, and I2C modules integrated inside. Likewise, we can have many modules integrated inside in nowadays advanced microcontrollers. So this Wi-Fi module is also integrated in nowadays microcontrollers, which helps us to do that Internet of Things operations. So we will see in later slides. There are some microcontrollers that have an internal Wi-Fi arrangement also. So I mean internal Wi-Fi modules. So those microcontrollers can be directly connected to Wi-Fi modem, and then we can transmit our data through that Wi-Fi, and then we can store our data to the IoT cloud. So this is the advanced microcontroller building blocks. So the next one is IoT control. So Node MCU, this is a commonly used IoT controller. So people usually prefer this kind of controller, because since this microcontroller is somewhat very cheap, and then it have some internal Wi-Fi arrangement also, like Wi-Fi arrangement such as that ESP8266. So this is that Wi-Fi arrangement actually. So apart from this, we can have some pins also, pin functionality. This is a controller with some with that Wi-Fi arrangement also. So we can directly connect this controller to Wi-Fi network, and then we can process our data, or we can move the data through the Wi-Fi network also. So the power input may be from 4.5 volt to 9 volt, and then our data transfer rate is this much. And then here one drawback is there. This controller is having only one analog input. So this is the analog pin actually. So A0 or A0 we usually call it as. So we can connect only one analog sensors here. That is the drawback of this particular IoT controller. If we are just having more number of analog sensors, for example, previously we were seeing about that ultrasonic sensors, temperature sensors. Likewise, if you are having more than one number of analog sensors, we cannot connect those sensors to this microcontroller, because since this microcontroller is having only one analog pins. So for that functionality, what we can do, we can go for some market controllers, and then we can connect this, we can interface this controller to any other microcontrollers also. So the data can be transmitted from this microcontroller to another interfacing microcontroller, and then this Wi-Fi functionality can also be. So we cannot use this Node MCU microcontroller for multiple analog sensors applications. If our application is having multiple analog sensors, then we cannot use this microcontroller. That is a drawback of this particular microcontroller. But the other functionalities are somewhat very nice here. So only we people are usually adapt this kind of Node MCU microcontroller or Internet of Things application. So what we will do, we may aware some other Arduino boards are there. Arduino Uno board is there, Arduino Mega board is there. Likewise, many other microcontroller board is there. We can connect that microcontroller board to this microcontroller board, and then the data can be transmitted, or data can be processed on that controller, and with the help of this Wi-Fi, our data can be transmitted to IoT network. So for the IoT functionality itself, we usually adapt this Node MCU microcontroller. So this is one advantage of this Node MCU microcontroller. And with the help of this IDE, Integrated Development Environment, we usually call it as, with the help of this IDE, we can program this microcontroller. So embedded C programming can be used, and then this microcontroller can be easily programmed here. And then this is another microcontroller, and a very advanced microcontroller. So this microcontroller is somewhat called as a compactable computer, pocket size computer. We usually call it as a pocket size computer because in this microcontroller or this boards have slots for monitor interfacing, keyboard interfacing, mouse interfacing. Likewise, the entire computer peripheral interfacings will be here, and then we can interface all those computer peripherals, and then we can utilize this particular board as a computer. So what we can do, we can have some LCD screen interfacings also, and then we can do computer operations in this microcontroller. So here, these are all the Raspberry Pi products. At start, they have just started their product with Raspberry Pi 0 and then Raspberry Pi 0W. Likewise, they have just moved on to Raspberry Pi 3 model A plus. Nowadays, B plus is also there, and then they have just gone to Raspberry Pi 4 also. So if you compare one with the other, you can have some additional features. For example, in Pi 0, you can have some limited features only. You cannot interface some USB kind of peripherals like that. You can compare from the basic boards to the well advanced boards. You can have some features, additional features. That is advantage of the basic boards to the advanced boards. So the price is also somewhat reasonable. Actually, we can purchase these kind of boards for around 4,000 to 5,000 rupees, and then for computer peripherals for 1,000 to 2,000 rupees. So with a 6,000 rupees, we can have some miniature computer in our home. So this is one somewhat very nice product actually from Raspberry. So here we can have one more thing, that is nothing but inbuilt Wi-Fi is also there. So this board is somewhat, this Raspberry Pi boards are used for Internet of Things applications because this board will have a Wi-Fi integrated Wi-Fi module. So you can directly connect this Raspberry Pi to Wi-Fi network, and then you can store your data to Wi-Fi cloud according to that appropriate program ports. So this is the advantage since it have a Wi-Fi module integrated inside. So this is all the specification of Raspberry Pi 4 board. So you can have a RAM speed of 2 GB, 4 GB, 8 GB, because since nowadays people are this particular manufacturer have manufactured this Raspberry Pi 4 board with various RAM ranges. 8 GB RAM also possible in nowadays board, and then these are all USB ports, USB 2 port 2.0 and USB 3.0, and then Ethernet cables are also be connected here, and then HDMI ports can be connected to any LCDs or monitors. Likewise, cameras are also connected here. Cameras can also be connected here. LCD screens can also be connected. Likewise, we can have everything, whatever we can have for our computers, that all those peripheral interfacing can also we can have here. So the specification, entire specification we can have here. This is the specification of this particular device, and apart from this we can have some GPIOs. This is called as general purpose input output pins. With the help of this GPIOs only, we can connect sensors or actuators to this particular microcontroller. So inside we can have some processor. That processor is nothing but this Broadcom BCM2711 quad-core Cortex A72 ARM processor actually, and then with the help of this GPIO pins, we can connect sensors or actuators to this entire board. So the data from sensors can be fed to inside this board with the help of this GPIO pin only. So the data can be fed from sensors. So data can be received from sensors, and it can be fed to any other actuators to do some output operations. So this is one thing. And then one drawback is there in this microcontroller, this Raspberry controller. Drawback is nothing but we don't have any internal ADCs. We don't have any internal analog to digital converter. So for that purpose, we have to go for some external ADC converter, because all the microcontrollers will perform only digital data. Our computer system will also perform digital data operations only. So our microcontrollers also perform the same operation, digital operations. So all the analog signals should be converted into digital once before it should reach your microcontroller. So some microcontroller, for example, here this microcontroller has a inbuilt ADC. This microcontroller have inbuilt ADC, but you can connect only one sensor. That one sensor analog signal will be converted into digital inside this microcontroller, since it have a inbuilt ADC. But Raspberry Pi type of microcontroller will not have any inbuilt ADC, so you must adapt or you must interface some external ADCs. These are all the some kinds of external ADC modules, analog to digital converter modules. This is a 16-bit module. That means your data can be converted into 16-bit digital data. The analog signals will be converted into 16-bit digital data, and with the help of this module PCF8591, your analog signals can be converted into 8-bit digital data. So likewise, many analog to digital converters modules are available. With the help of these modules, we can connect the sensors to this Raspberry Pi with the help of this interfacing circuits. We cannot able to connect analog sensors directly to this GPIO pins. We need these kind of interfacing circuits for the interfacing of analog sensors to this microcontrollers. So this is the one drawback. And then this is the another microcontroller. This is another microcontroller from the Texas Instruments. So inside we can have ARM Cortex M4F based microcontroller, and for this is mainly for IoT applications, and somewhat the programming would be somewhat very difficult here. So I'm not going to involve you in this microcontroller. But this controller is somewhat very advanced, and then your data security would be somewhat very high. You can have a secure data transmission, and this particular board is meant for IoT applications. The only thing is you may feel that programming would be somewhat very difficult, and also some supporting library packages would be somewhat very difficult to use or difficult to access. That is the only drawback with this type of microcontrollers. So this is one example microcontroller. So here also you can see the entire specification, like whatever the sensors, there are some sensors also interfaced inside this microcontroller board. This is the entire board, and then microprocessor is nothing but ARM processor, what I just discussed earlier. So these are all specifications, and here you can see the IDE. Like here I just missed, in Raspberry Pi we have one IDE. Terminal can be used as an IDE here. This is one terminal actually. This is a terminal, remote terminal. The terminal name is nothing but Mobaxterm, MOBAXTERM, Mobaxterm. With the help of this terminal, you can program your Raspberry Pi microcontroller, or else you can directly use the PuTTY software. One software is there named PuTTY, PUTTY, PuTTY. With the help of those terminal softwares, we can program this microcontroller. Raspberry Pi microcontrollers. Likewise, if you would like to program this microcontroller, then you must use IAR, you must use Keil software, likewise CCS software. These are all the need some softwares to program this particular microcontroller. So if you are just using this microcontroller, NodeMCU means you need this microcontroller, Arduino IDE for program development. For example, if you are just using Raspberry Pi products, then you must need some terminal softwares. Terminal softwares like PuTTY and then Mobaxterm. All those softwares will help you, and all those terminal softwares will help you to code your Raspberry Pi microcontrollers. And then if you are just using these launch pads like Texas Instrument launch pads, then you must use IAR or CSS and Keil type software IDEs for the programming development. So this is one advantage actually. Nowadays, our Arduino, with the help of Arduino company collaboration, they have just invented one software called Energia. With the help of this Energia software, we can code our Texas Instrument microcontroller boards we can code our program in an easy way. So with the help of this software, we can code this microcontroller in a easy way. So this is one advantage here. And then while going to open IoT platforms. Okay, so what we have discussed, we have just discussed the sensors and we have just discussed the microcontrollers, and our final end should be our cloud servers. So cloud servers are nothing but online storage. So you must need some online storage. If you are having any internet, then with the help of internet, you must need some cloud storage. You must need some memory storage. So according to that, we can have some open IoT platform. These are all some open IoT platforms which can be used to store our data in a cloud. So with the help of these clouds, we can store our data. For later use, we can retrieve and then we can process our data. So this is what called as open IoT platforms, because since it is open to all, you don't need not have to pay any money to access this kind of software. They just give you some memory space. You can able to feed your sensor data into online cloud. So afterwards you can see that data. For example, I will just show you one example. So before that, I will just proceed with this ThinkSpeak. ThinkSpeak is nothing but these are all some open IoT platform. I'm just going to concentrate on this particular platform. The similar way the other things will be, but I'm just going to concentrate in this ThinkSpeak platform. So this ThinkSpeak platform is a open source IoT application, and with the help of API is nothing but application program interface. With the help of API keys, one key will be there actually. So with the help of that API keys, we can store and retrieve our data from IoT cloud to your microcontroller. So that is the thing here. Let me show that screen, then you can able to have a clear picture. So this is the ThinkSpeak page actually. So you can able to, let me show that, right? So this is the home page actually. So with the help of this home page, you can open your own account. Okay, so here you can click this channels. If you click this channels, I've just already signed in, so only it is directly getting me into my account. But if you just click that channel, what happen? Obviously it will ask you username and then password. So if you are just giving, or if you are just registered, then you will be directed to this home page. If you are not registered, then you must register to access this particular private account. So this is one ThinkSpeak account I have just created for myself to log my temperature data. So once I have just registered, I have this as my account, my own account. So here you have to click this new channel. This is my home page. This is my account home page, because I just signed in. For or else you let me once again proceed this. Just let me sign out first. So I just signed out. So here I've just given get started here. So obviously it will ask you your mail ID. So if you just have any account previously, then you can directly give your mail ID and password, and then you can get into your account. Or else if you don't have any ThinkSpeak account, then you have to click this create one button, and then you have to give your necessary details, and then you have to create your own ThinkSpeak account to have the cloud memory space. This is nothing but a cloud memory space. You can able to store your sensor data in this cloud memory space. This owner is nothing but the owning company actually. The owning company is nothing but ThinkSpeak, maintained by what MathWorks. So here the email ID, my email ID, I have to type my email ID. Next I have to give my password. So I have just given my password here. So it will direct me to my home page. So I have just successfully signed in. So this is my home page. So if I would like to create any channel, for example, I am just having some sensor connected to some microcontroller. With the help of that microcontroller, I will just get the sensor data. That data can be directly stored in this IoT cloud. So here I can click this new channel. So new channel is here. You can give your process name. I can give my process name as temperature logging. So this is my process name. So here, how many graphs I would like to have? This is a graph actually. If you are having, if you are just enabled or if you are just giving a tick mark here, according to that, you can have multiple fields. So in one channel, you can have maximum of 8 graphs. That means what? You can connect 8 sensors in one channel. For example, you have more than 8 sensors, then obviously you must go for another channel. So all will log your temperature data. So I have just for the demo purpose, I have just enabled channel field 1. So then this metadata, all those descriptions will be given at the right hand side. So you can give your geolocations also. You can give your, if you are having any website, then that website URL can be given here. So this particular data can be shared to that web page also. Likewise, that data can be shared to the github.com. Likewise, all these things, definitions will be given at the right hand side. So here I have just given here. If you would like to have any description also, you can give the channel description. This process is to log my temperature data from the sensor. Like that, you can give some description. So the description will be at your channel afterwards. So I've just created one channel here. So if I save this, what happened? Let me show this. This is my screen actually. So here, if I have just interfaced any sensor, according to that, here I can have some graph. So like if the temperature data change, according to the temperature data change, I can have a graphical waveform with respect to time and date here. So what happened? This particular field chart is meant to log your data in the form of graphical way. So this is the thing here. So this is somewhat a private view. So I mean, if your hardware should be connected with this cloud platform. You may ask like how this particular IoT cloud can be connected to my microcontroller, because let me show this. Wait. So if consider this as my sensor, consider this block as my sensor, and then this block as my microcontroller, and this is my, consider this is my computer. So likewise, what happens, we know already, we know our data will be sensed and transmitted to our microcontroller. So this microcontroller is a node MCU. Assume this microcontroller as a node MCU. That means what? Our Wi-Fi module is somewhat integrated inside this microcontroller. So whatever data is sensed, and that data should be logged. If the data should be logged, then that data will be transferred to that Wi-Fi, to that Wi-Fi with the help of that Wi-Fi arrangement here. So Wi-Fi is there, but what is the connection between your ThinkSpeak? What will be the connection between your ThinkSpeak and your microcontroller? So that is what I would like to say here. Here you have to see for API keys. So this is somewhat very, very important. So here, if you observe this, API is nothing but, I already told you, API is nothing but application program interface. So application program interface is used as a key here. So you have to use this as a key. This is a 16-digit character key. This should be utilized inside your microcontroller programming. So what happened inside your microcontroller programming? You have to give this as a key. So if your sensor data is sensed, that data will be given to your microcontroller according to the written program here. That microcontroller will obviously works to feed our data to ThinkSpeak cloud. So what happened at that time? What happened with the help of this API key? With the help of this right API key, what happened? This microcontroller will send a request to this cloud platform. So if it is having a proper key, this ThinkSpeak platform will accept, and then this will receive the data from this microcontroller, and then it will store the data to this ThinkSpeak cloud, and then it will be visualized in this graph. So this is the thing which will happen at the back end. So this is nothing but a key. This is nothing but a key. This key helps us to access the data from microcontroller to this cloud platform. Likewise, the similar thing, if you like to transmit the data from ThinkSpeak to your microcontroller, then you have to utilize the read key actually. Likewise, read key, write key can be used, and then because of that you can transfer your data from either from ThinkSpeak to your microcontroller or from microcontroller to ThinkSpeak. So this is what ThinkSpeak Cloud. And then the next one is nothing but data import or export. Once the data is logged in a graphical way, once your data is logged in a graphical way, that can be exported with the help of this arrangement. So you can have a file export, and then you can store that values in a Excel file or CSV format. Likewise, you can have any format here. So your sensor data can also be logged, and then for later use you can use your sensor data. This is the entire ThinkSpeak page. With the help of this, you can store your sensor data in an online cloud. So you can sign in anywhere, anytime, and then your sensor data can be viewed at any time. That's the advantage. So your sensor may be placed in Tamil Nadu, and then if you people are in America or some other foreign country, with the help of this sign-in operation, you can sign in, and then you can visualize your sensor data parameters. This is the advantage. So with the help of this IoT platform, we can log our sensor data, and then we can control that process anyways. So with the help of this MATLAB analysis, this is one advantage. MATLAB, with the help of this MATLAB analysis also, we can have some MATLAB code here. And then we can do some MATLAB analysis with this received sensor data. With this received sensor data, we can do some MATLAB analysis also. That is also possible here. So since it is developed by that MATLAB company, we can have the MATLAB functionality also here. So this is what I would like to share here. Likewise, the other things are also ThinkBoard and then Thinker.io. So the rest of the IoT platforms will also be in a similar way. So everything will be having its own sign-in account, and then you have to create your own account. Then you can log your data. So this is the thing. So private view, public view is what you can show your graph to public. Private means you can view your data only by yourself. And then channel settings, you can set your channels. You can view your channel parameters, and then sharing everything you can see here. So these are all the things, and then that's all. These are all the IoT platforms. And then I will complete my section. And I thank the management and Dr. A. Devaraju sir, principal of Adi College of Engineering and Technology, and I thank Dr. K.B. Bhaskar sir, head of the department EEE, and coordinator Mr. M. Dinesh sir, and other faculty members of Adi College of Engineering and Technology who arranged this online. Also, I thank all the participants from various institutes for your patience. I thank you all.
Participants, if you have any doubt, you can ask